Hello and welcome to the Kitchen Table Theology podcast, where each week, Pastor Jeff Cranston explores biblical theology that provides practical life applications in an understandable way. Thanks for joining us at the table. Let's get started.
Well, hello again, everyone. Welcome back to Kitchen Table Theology. This is Jeff Cranston, and this is going to be a very short, very brief podcast today, just introducing something. Tiffany's not with me today because I'm just going to introduce to you where we're headed for the foreseeable future, God willing, with the podcast. We have covered a great portion of a theology called systematic theology. We've covered a good-sized portion of what's called practical theology. And basically, there are four types of theology in the Christian faith. Those two, systematic and practical. There's biblical theology. You say, well, aren't the other two biblical? They are, but that kind of goes down a little bit of a different path. And then there is historical theology. And that's the direction we're going to go for a little while here on the Kitchen Table Theology podcast. You say, well, what is historical theology? Well, it's an overview of Christian theology and doctrine down through the centuries. And as you study that, you include the study of important trends and debates throughout the history of the church. And then they all have theological repercussions and overviews. And so you study those things as well. This is not systematic or practical theology, as we have covered it here on the podcast. This theology, historical theology, traces the history of doctrinal thought. So it partners with church history, and it includes studies of the great theologians of the past, the history of these doctrines, how they were formulated. It includes creeds and confessions and things like that. Now, I can already see through the magic of the podcast, some of you are already thinking, this is when I stop listening to the podcast. I was wondering when I was going to stop. Now I know. This sounds so boring. And some of you, when you hear the word history, you run in the opposite direction. Well, I hope you'll stay with us. It won't be boring, I promise. If it's going to be boring, I don't want to do it. So we're going to keep it anything but boring. That's the goal. But on the other hand, how can studying things like this be boring? I mean, I'm very excited about it. But let me tell you why studying historical theology is important. This new season here on Kitchen Table Theology is going to serve to familiarize us with basic concepts down throughout the history of the Christian church. So why is that so important? Well, simply, if I asked you what you believe, you and I sat down, we had a cup of Southern pecan coffee in front of us, and I asked you what you believe, and you gave me an answer on, well, let's just say any theological point, which you have learned from the Bible. And then what if I asked you this? Who else in church history believed that and why? How would you answer it? Well, let's just be honest. Most of us would porky pig it. We wouldn't have an idea. That's why it's important. And as much as it might seem like an exercise in study history, it's much more than that. So again, when you're studying theology, it's rooted into the Bible, and so you're listening to Christ's voice. And then when we read the Bible and we study theology in the Bible, we ought to be coming away with the reality of my sheep hear my voice. That's what Jesus said. So do we hear his voice? What is he saying? How do we know it? So when you come to historical theology, you come upon this. Do we believe the same truths that the church has always believed, or have we come up with something new and novel? In this way, historical theology is exceedingly important and ought to be a part of your theological learning as a follower of Jesus and you should engage in it, and so should I. We should engage in it heartily in order to understand. It's going to take us down a lot of different trails and pathways. I'm looking forward to it. There's a lot to studying historical theology. And I'll be quite frank with you, I haven't done nearly the study in this branch of theology that I have done in the systematic and the practical branches of the study of theology. So I'm really looking forward to this. So, Lord willing, Tiffany and I will be back with you on our next podcast, and we will begin our study together of historical theology. And so until then, I hope you have a great week. And always remember that the importance in studying theology is not only knowing it, but applying it. And I trust that we help you do that right here on Kitchen Table Theology. So until next time, God bless.
You've been listening to the Kitchen Table Theology podcast with Pastor Jeff Cranston. Join us next time for more insights into biblical truth. If you'd like to know more on today's topic, please check out our show notes. If you have a question from today's podcast, kindly email us at pastorjeff@lowcountrycc.org. If you're enjoying this podcast, would you consider leaving a rating and review? We deeply appreciate your help in getting the word out. And be sure to subscribe on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, or in your favorite podcasting app to continue this journey with us as we learn about and apply God's Word to our lives. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time here at Kitchen Table Theology.